Kia ora, and welcome to my daily chorus. I'm Bernard Hickey for the Kākā. This is my daily podcast video that goes out via my email newsletter on a Substack. It's called the Kākā, and it's all about Aotearoa's political economy around housing, climate, and poverty reduction. So the big news in the last day has been the Reserve Bank's decision to cut the official cash rate by 25 basis points to 3%. This is not a surprise. What was a surprise is that the Reserve Bank actually considered cutting 50 basis points, the so-called bazooka cut. And there were actually 2 of the 6 voting members on the Monetary Policy Committee that did actually vote for a 50 basis point cut. And that's an unprecedented split inside the Monetary Policy Committee. So the Reserve Bank had to do that because the economy slowed unexpectedly for the Reserve Bank and the government in the June quarter. And that's because consumers weren't spending as much as everyone thought they would. There wasn't as much residential investment, and the government continued to restrain spending growth. Again, the idea being here that either the household sector or the business sector would step forward as the government stepped back. But that implies both will need to borrow money from a bank to go out there and invest or spend. And that's just not happening. And one of the reasons is that house prices have fallen substantially, and homeowners feel a significant so-called wealth effect, a wealth hit to their financial well-being. And this really emphasizes the fact of our economy. It's a housing market with bits tacked on, and those bits tacked on are ever more numbers and size of mortgages, of rental property investors and homeowners buying more properties, either off each other or in some cases building new ones. And there's been fewer of those new ones as well. Part of the reason being when house prices are falling, it's harder to liberate the equity from your existing house because remember, it's very rare for actual first home buyers to pay and build a new house. It tends to come from those who've built up equity before. And also, people just aren't willing to take a loss and then move on. They prefer to wait for the market to rebound. When everyone's doing that, they're looking at each other, waiting for someone else to make the first move. And therefore, we see a chilling of investment and spending in the economy as the wealth effect kicks in. We've also seen a fall in migration. And for me, this emphasizes the fact that our economy can't handle the truth of what it really is, a housing market with bits tacked on. And you see what happens when the bits tacked on don't perform. The economy doesn't perform. The normal ways that economy operates, when interest rates fall, businesses invest, households invest. The thing that's different this time around is that house prices are 10 to 20% below their peaks, and businesses tend not to invest anymore. They, like households, have worked out that over the long run, the lowest risk and best returns after tax and leverage are in residential property. And so everyone's waiting for the next boom. And they're waiting for the next boom in migration. Of course, when you've got fewer jobs and incomes are weak, you tend to have less demand for migration, although the government's looking to loosen some of the rules to get more migration in there because it fulfills 2 roles. It lowers wages, therefore lowers inflation, lowers interest rates, and also provides demand for rental properties, which helps increase rents for rental property investors. So, no bazooka, but they looked. And you can see that they've also lowered their forecast track for the official cash rate to 2.55%. That would help lower the New Zealand dollar by more than 1% and lowered wholesale interest rates a bit. We saw some mortgage rates cut last night. The Reserve Bank also lowered its view of GDP and of house prices and increased its view of unemployment and inflation. So they were stagflationary forecast increases there. Now, so what happens when we work out that it's quite difficult to grow when the bits tacked on are not working? And this was pointed out quite accurately by Paul Conway in yesterday's press conference, announcing the rate cut when he said, and he pointed to a special box in the monetary policy statement. He said, when you look at household consumption, it's correlated with what's going on in the housing market. So he says there's a bit of an open question there. Can the New Zealand economy grow without that sort of wealth effect coming through in the housing market? He's absolutely right to ask the question, because that's exactly what happened in the June quarter. As Paul said, GDP hit a judder bar, and we saw a falling real household wealth. Because of those falling house prices, we saw lower real disposable income because of inflation. And we saw less government spending relative to the overall economy. All of that meant that the business and household sectors did not step forward to make up for the economy. But the government's strategy remains just get interest rates lower and that will solve everything. And Nicola Willis is now saying that those people who are talking down the economy are doing a disservice to the economy. I think it's worth listening to Nicola Willis's comments when she first got into government at the end of 2023, when she suggested that the economy was in an awful mess and that the government would have to cut spending to get it back into order. Everyone saw that and thought, perhaps I should cut spending too. And so what we ended up with was a balance sheet recession, where the government said it didn't like the look of its own balance sheet and therefore was going to cut spending. Consumers said, I don't like the look of my own balance sheet, so I'm going to cut spending. And before you knew it, everyone cut spending at the same time. That's Macroeconomics 101. I'm Bernard Hickey. That was today's Daily Chorus for Thursday, August the 21st. Ka kite anō.